What's going on, Jets fans? Welcome back to another video here on Peg City Hockey. Things have been going pretty well if you are a Jets fans this year. The way that the season started, the consistent play, even through the ups and downs of some bad losses, the Jets have really managed to maintain their identity, even throughout the injuries on the defensive end, and have really continued to stride. Obviously, there have been some imperfect games, and there have been some pretty annoying losses, and they're not playing the most perfect hockey, but they're still finding ways to win games that matter, get the points that they need, and I think that that's an important thing. Obviously, this team, there's always room for improvement. I'm not saying that the Jets are perfect. Lock them in for the Stanley Cup right now. I'm all in. I still would like to see some things that this team could change, and I would like to see some additions made. I wasn't very happy with the way that they lost that Connor Hellebuck night, celebrating his 300th win the other day to the LA Kings. It's a back-to-back situation. They play today against the Colorado Avalanche, but nonetheless, though, the Jets have been losing games as of late that, they could be winning. That Anaheim game was brutal. Beating Nashville was a big win, thankfully, but still, losing this game to the Kings was rough. And I think when you look defensively, you got Josh Morrissey, who's okay after that scary hit he took in the Nashville game. Dylan Sandberg's come back and has made a big impact already. So the Jets still are looking to add, I would say, on the defensive end. And lately, they've been linked to players, a lot of defensive players, but the first one we're going to talk about is Anaheim Ducks defenseman Brian Dumoulin. Brian Dumoulin was recently linked to the Winnipeg Jets through an article I saw from David Pagnotta on the Hockey News, pretty much just saying that the 33-year-old two-time Stanley Cup defenseman with the Anaheim Ducks is looking for a new change of scenery, and the Jets have been linked to him. He's on a contract of $3 million. Brian Dumoulin, like I said, two-time Stanley Cup winner with those back-to-back Pittsburgh Penguins teams, was traded for a fourth-round pick to the Anaheim Ducks after he signed with the Kraken for 1 year, and he's honestly been a pretty solid defenseman. Brian Dumoulin's got age, he's got pedigree, he's been around the league for a long time, he's been on some big teams. When you look at his stats, obviously this isn't a guy that's going to come out there and put up tons of points, but he's a pretty reliable, second, third pairing defenseman who can play up your lineup through if you have injuries, and that's exactly what the Jets need. You look at Anaheim right now, Dumoulin's playing on the second pairing with Jacob Trouba, a newly assembled second pairing, I would say, since both those guys have been recently added to that Anaheim Ducks squad this year. But nonetheless, though, I think Brian Dumoulin would be an okay get for, maybe a fourth, fifth round pick. That'd be a similar move to the acquisition of getting Colin Miller last year. So the other player that they've been linked to, which they've been linked to every goddamn trade deadline for the last 3-4 years, I feel like, is Rasmus Ristolainen. Again, this is coming from David Pagnotta at the Hockey News. This is where I saw the article, and I gotta say, Rasmus Ristolainen, maybe 8 years ago, something like that, as a rookie, second sophomore year guy back in Buffalo, I would have been okay with it. But at this point in his career, I don't want it. I just don't think that Rasmus Ristolainen is the guy anymore. And it's also, this article is linking them to Lindgren as well on the New York Rangers. And Lindgren's got some ups and downs too. He's been struggling with his top partner with Fox, and the Rangers and themselves have been struggling. But Dumoulin and Lindgren have a lot of playoff experience, whereas Ristolainen has, I don't think, ever played in the playoffs. And you look at his stats, and they're just mediocre at best. They really, really are mediocre at best. You're not gonna get really a top pairing guy out of Ristolainen. You're not going to get, you're just going to get a liability, in my opinion, at this point with him. He's a second pairing guy with Philadelphia, and I just don't see him being a game changer for this club, and I feel like the price tag on Ristolainen would be way too high. I feel like that's why every year when the Jets have went out to potentially acquire him, because let's be real, the Jets have been linked to Ristolainen at the trade deadline for as long as I can remember. I'm going to say at least 3 years now the Jets have been linked to Ristolainen, and it's not happened every year because the price tag's too high on him. I think that the Jets, Chevy, would be okay in acquiring him. Obviously, the franchise wants this player. They've been linked to him on multiple different teams in multiple different trade situations, but it never gets done. And I just can't help but think that the reason why these trades have never been done with Ristolainen is because the asking price is too high. And which is going to kind of redirect this conversation from, a higher, I don't even like saying that because I don't believe Ristolainen is a higher tier defenseman or a higher get when it comes to the deadline, but obviously the way the hockey media works, they view him as that. But I think that if you're going for a defensive ad, I think Ristolainen's going to cost too much, and he's not going to be that much of a really big increase to your blue line with its reliability defensively. But, when you look at a guy like Dumoulin or Ryan Lindgren, I think that they would. Obviously Ryan Lindgren is having a pretty damn bad year with the New York Rangers. The New York Rangers are just a complete shit show over there this year. Look at the advanced stats for him. They're not that solid. Even his offense is abysmal, but his defensive ratings aren't bad. And, I think if you're looking looking again to add a defensive defenseman for a third pairing responsible role, or looking to add defensive depth, I think a guy like Dumoulin and I think a guy like Lindgren makes a bit more sense. Obviously, do I think they're the pinnacle of what the Jets could go out and get as a defenseman at going into the trade deadline? Absolutely not. There have been guys like we've already seen Cam Fowler get moved. I think that do I want the Jets to go out and get Cam Fowler? No, but I think a guy like that could be a bit more of a higher pedigree and offer a bit more than these guys even at his age. But I think, again, when you look at what the Jets are right now, you look at what they want, I think they want better defensive structure. You look at the fact that Logan Stanley is still drawing into games, so they must view Logan Stanley as a better option as Dylan Coghlan and Ville Heinola. So if that's the case, if Logan Stanley is going to, you got to get Logan Stanley in the lineup pretty much. That's what it comes down to, and I think that he's not going to be the guy you want in the playoffs. He's going to cost us in the playoffs. I know you could make that stupid argument about those 2 goals he scored against Montreal, a couple of 4 years ago now, but I'm not making that argument because I don't care. I don't think Logan Stanley is responsible enough for the NHL playoffs, and I don't think he's responsible enough for a deep run. So as long as the Jets defense has these flaws in it, as they continuously have throughout the season, because even though the Jets have been great, even throughout their flaws, their biggest, I say, stain on this team would be their defensive play at times, especially with the Sandberg injury when he was out. No one really answered that call, and the responsibility given to some players in Sandberg's absence really showed the necessity in needing to go out and get a more reliable defenseman, because even, with the Colin Miller injury, I think he's still going to be out for probably another week. Hayden Fleury is still not skating, and again, Hayden Fleury is a depth defenseman that's playing out of his mind, and the only real guy on this team defensively that's stepped up in the absence of other players due to injury. So when you're looking at these 3 guys in itself, I think I would personally like a guy like Brian Dumoulin the most. I think his 2 Stanley Cup champions with Pittsburgh, I think his defensive pedigree is a lot more responsible and would be a better fit for this team in a depth role, in a leadership role and whatnot on a team trying to win a Stanley Cup. I do not think Ristolainen is the guy that the Jets should go out and get. I don't think he would really help this team whatsoever. He's not going to get power play time either, so he's not going to get those points. And then if it came down to it, if Lindgren was available still at the right price, I think he would be a great get. I think that him and Dumoulin are the 2 guys out of these 3 players. I think that if you're looking to add defensive reliability and some more depth defensemen with pedigree, I think you go for Brian Dumoulin. I think a 4th round pick would honestly be a pretty good swap for that guy. That's similar to what we did for Colin Miller last year. So if you're trading a later round pick for a defensive defenseman who's got 2 Stanley Cups to his name, I think that could help you really a lot heading back into the playoffs this year if you're the Winnipeg Jets. So let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Do you think any of these players could be beneficial to the team, or do you want none of them? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. As always, subscribe if you're new. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram. Peace, love, and positivity as always. Go Jets, go! I'll see you guys in the next one.